eye contact. So I have, I start with food in my hands and my dog in front of me. And I hold my hands out to the side, yes. And as soon as he looks at me, I mark and I reward from one of the hands, yes. And I switch them up, yes, because I don't want him anticipating from one hand or the other. If your dog has a hard time with this, you're gonna mark the second their eyes flick to your eyes and make eye contact. As they get better at it, you can hold, yes. So Rocco will hold eye contact for a good amount of time because he knows the game. Yes. And then if that's easy, whoops, you didn't get a cookie. If that's easy for them, you can make it more challenging by moving one of your hands. Yes. And they maintain eye contact, they get marked and rewarded. Yes, good boy. And if that's easy, you can move both hands. Yes, good boy. So we can make it more and more challenging with our dogs depending on what level that they're at. You can also do games with putting the food on a table and waiting for them to make eye contact, but for right now, mostly we're going to be working from our hands. Yes. And I kind of mentioned it in the week 1 videos, is we work on having the dogs come into heel position on the stand platform instead of having them coming into the front position. So once they're coming in consistently with 4 legs in front in a stand, we're going to put the platform down in the position that we want it to be in heel. We're going to toss a cookie behind us. Wait for him to come, yes. And then reward in the heel position. So I'm looking for all 4 legs to be there in position, for him to come in to where I want him to be when he's in a heel, which would be the shoulder lined up with my leg. I'm gonna toss the cookie behind him. Yes, stand, stand, good. And if he sits, I just ask him to stand. The easiest way to teach it at first is to have the toss your cookie behind you. Oops, that didn't go quite behind us, did it? And he's gonna come right in, yes. And that's the easiest way. If we start tossing it, in more advanced weeks, we'll be tossing it to the front and the side in different positions. But that was the skill that we worked in week 2 with the platforms. So I talked about it in the week 1 video, is that once we get feet on the tub, we're gonna work on teaching a pivot, and then we're gonna teach from the front, and then we wanna work on a pivot into heel position. So for our dog, yes, Rocco knows how to pivot, so he's already pivoting because he knows the game. You can start with no food in the hand, standing in front of your dog, and move around the pivot bowl, yes, good. So if you take a step and they sidestep, yes, good. We're gonna mark and reward. If your dog won't sidestep, they just don't understand or don't start making some motion, you can put food in your hand in front of their nose, and you can step, yes, and release a piece of food, yes, as they're stepping, yes. And I do both directions because I want to keep it balanced, yes, yes. And then the next step, if we're using the food lure, is to have no food in our hands, and then just try the stepping, yes. And usually you'll start getting some movement. If your dog is new to this, even the tiniest little step we want to mark and reward, yes. Okay, and then once they're consistently pivoting, we can ask them to be into heel position. You stand in heel position, and then we can take a little step, yes. And if they pivot, we mark and reward. Yes, good. If your dog has a hard time with it, you can take a step, yes, and you can reward them bringing their nose around. So it actually helps them pivot in a little bit more. Yes. So I'm gonna over-rotate him in the pivot. Yes. Okay. Because our goal is that as we move around the bowl, they'll pivot with us. Yes, good job, Rocco. Good job. Very nice. Around a cone. It could be a cone or any object, but cones are pretty much the easiest thing we can carry around with us. And if your dog doesn't know how to go around a cone, the best way to start is standing near the cone with your dog on one side of you. Yes, and they start to take a step around the cone or towards the cone, you can mark it. like, why are you standing so close to it? It's kind of weird. If they get stuck, you can use a lure. Yes, good boy. And help them around. Yes, good. And see how he started to walk around it and I was able to mark it? Yes, good. And I can toss the cookie behind me, so I'm getting the full rotation. He'll start getting the idea about, yes, going around it. And you can teach it both directions, but yes. So he did that on his own. Once they're consistently starting to, yes, good, go around it. I usually just add a bit of a hand cue, yes, good. I just kind of sweep my hand towards the cone, and when they go around it, mark, yes, good. Yes, good. And you can get farther and farther from the cone. So that's one of the skills that we want to work on this week. Yes, good job. And then once he's consistent, I put a cue on it, bop. Yes. Good boy, Rocco. Good boy.